Okay, let's unpack this one.
Yeah.
Have you ever found yourself completely drawn into a story where the air just feels thick with secrets, where magic isn't just power, it's also this like haunting curse, and the line between who's the hero and who's the monster gets really, really blurry?
Absolutely. Those are the best kinds.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of story.
Yeah.
Rachel Gillig's debut, One Dark Window. It's the first book in the Shepherd King series, and it is captivating.
It really is.
So for this deep dive, we've gathered a whole lot of comprehensive summaries, some really sharp critical insights into the book.
Yeah, lots to work with.
Our mission here is basically to pull out all the most important bits, the key knowledge, maybe some surprising details, to give you a real shortcut to understanding this gothic fantasy gem.
Right.
We're talking the twists, the themes that really hit home, that slow burn emotional core. We'll get into the world itself, Blunder, which is just eerie.
Oh, yeah.
The unique magic system, the characters you won't forget, and all those powerful ideas woven through it.
And what's so fascinating, I think, is how Gillig builds this world. It just immediately pulls you in. You actually feel the mystery right from the start.
You really do.
So yeah, this deep dive, it's not just a summary. We're going to help you navigate those shadowed paths, really understand the core of its magic, the rebellion brewing underneath.
Exactly. It's about why it resonated, what makes those gothic elements so compelling, and, how those emotional moments land so hard.
By the end, you'll have, hopefully, a really solid, nuanced understanding of the plot, the characters, and those deeper messages that kind of stick with you.
Okay, so to really get One Dark Window, we have to start with the world itself, the kingdom of Blunder.
Yes. Crucial.
The sources we looked at all hammer this point home. The setting isn't just scenery. It's core to the story's identity. It shapes everything. Mood, plot, the characters' fates.
Definitely.
Just picture this. The descriptions always use words like eerie, mist-shrouded. It's a gothic, forest-locked realm, perpetually cloaked in mist and mystery.
It's so evocative.
Right. You can almost feel that cold, damp air, see those ancient, twisted trees, hear the whispers of old magic in the shadows. It really embodies that dark fantasy feel.
It does. It's not just a place. It's an atmosphere you inhabit while reading. Very immersive.
And that atmosphere, especially the mist.
Yeah.
You were saying it's symbolic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources point this out clearly. The mist isn't just weather. It's described as an ever-present reminder of the magical corruption that plagues the land.
Wow. So it's not just damp air.
Not at all. This corruption, it's insidious. It doesn't just affect the forests and rivers. It seeps into the society itself, fostering fear, shaping the laws.
How does that play out for people living there?
Well, think about it. Society is rigidly controlled. There's a monarchy that regulates magic with an iron fist, hunting down anyone even suspected of being infected by it.
Infected. Like a disease.
Exactly. That's how they frame it. We hear about these nightmare wardens conducting brutal public purges. Daily life becomes this constant, terrifying tightrope walk.
Gosh, just imagine the anxiety, knowing that something inherent to you, or even just the idea of it, could get you persecuted.
Precisely. The mist becomes this physical manifestation of a spiritual blight the regime actually uses against its people. And that kind of fear, that control. It's the perfect breeding ground for rebellion, for desperation.
And it's not just the current regime or the environment, right? The past is a huge deal in Blunder.
Huge. The kingdom is steeped in its own folklore, superstition, and this enduring legacy of the Shepherd King.
The Shepherd King. That name comes up a lot.
It's not just some old story. It's a living myth that dictates the political and social fabric. The legend says he was this incredibly powerful ruler vanished centuries ago.
After sealing his magic in the Providence Cards.
Exactly. Those cards we'll definitely get into. But his legacy, the folklore around him, it shapes everything now, people's beliefs, their fears, their hopes.
So the myth fuels both the monarchy's fear and the rebels' hope.
Precisely. The monarchy fears uncontrolled magic because of what happened, supposedly, when his power was lost or sealed. The rebels believe resurrecting his true magic is the only way to break the curse plaguing the land.
It's fascinating how these old myths are driving the current conflicts.
It really is. The Shepherd King isn't just history. He's Blunder's foundational myth, like a lost messiah figure.
And his magic was supposedly different, pure.
That's the belief. Legend paints his magic as harmonious, unlike the corrupting magic tied to the Providence Cards now. His disappearance, the curse, they're seen as linked. So the rebels aren't just power hungry, they're trying to restore something pure, something healing.
It's a battle for the kingdom's soul, then.
Absolutely. And Gillig blends this dark fantasy core with these really strong fairy tale elements. You've got genuinely haunted woods, like something from the Brothers Grimm, but then layered with these powerful, cursed magical artifacts, secret groups working in the shadows, and this crumbling, desperate royalty.
That mix sounds incredibly atmospheric, enchanting, but also unnerving.
Exactly. It keeps you immersed, but always on edge. Wondering what's lurking, what dark secret is about to surface.
So in the middle of this misty, fear-filled kingdom, we find our protagonist, Elspeth Spindle.
Yes, Elspeth.
She seems quiet, introspective at first, but right away, we learn her massive secret.
The nightmare.
Yeah, she's possessed by this entity called the nightmare. It's not just in her head, it's a voice. Cryptic, powerful, kind of sardonic.
Very distinct personality.
And she's kept this hidden for years, terrified of the kingdom's punishments for anyone with dark magic. It's like a ticking time bomb inside her.
And that dynamic between Elspeth and the nightmare is where so much of the story's psychological depth comes from.
Tell me more about the nightmare itself. It's not just a voice, right?
No, it's intelligent, manipulative, even darkly funny sometimes. It offers Elspeth power, knowledge shortcuts, really, to understanding Blunder's magic, but there's always a price.
Always a price. What kind of price?
The sources explain it's a slow, physical decay. It starts with cold, lethargy, then moves to terrifying hallucinations. The ultimate fear is becoming a hollow, mindless, destructive, completely consumed by the magic.
Oh, wow. That adds a whole layer of dread to her everyday life.
Absolutely. And as the story unfolds, finding out the nightmare's true identity, its origins, its motives, that becomes central to the plot. It unravels mysteries about Blunder itself.
Which brings us to that question. How does this intense internal fight actually shape what she does in the world? Does it paralyze her or push her?
That's the fascinating paradox. It is a constant struggle, but it actually fuels her journey. Her heroism is reluctant, born from this internal battle.
So she's not just getting power, she's fighting for her own soul while trying to use it.
Exactly. Her strength, her compassion, they're forged in that fire. It's not just a plot device. It mirrors really deep themes. Mental illness, duality, learning to accept all parts of yourself, even the dark ones.
That makes her feel very different from a lot of fantasy heroes. It's not just about fighting external evil.
Right. She's wrestling with this internal force that's both curse and source of unique power. It adds this psychological depth that feels incredibly real, even in a fantasy setting. It resonates because we all grapple with inner struggles.
That is powerful. So, given that internal conflict, the nightmare's influence, do her choices surprise you sometimes? Or does the nightmare often win out?
Her moral conflicts make her so compelling. She's brave, but she's constantly torn, burdened by the secret, influenced by the nightmare, terrified of being discovered.
It must be exhausting.
Immense mental fortitude required. Her decisions often defy easy good or bad labels. She's driven by protecting people she cares about, even if it means compromising, risking herself. It's always a tightrope walk. Survival, rebellion, holding on to herself. Her path is anything but predictable because of it.
So on top of this internal battle, she gets pulled into this external conflict involving the Providence Cards.
Yes, the magical core of the plot.
These cards, created by the Shepherd King, they grant powers, but there's that catch again.
The nightmare corruption.
Using them infects you with the same thing Elspeth is fighting.
Wow. It connects her directly to the heart of Blunder's magical problem.
And this is where Raven Yu comes in. Captain of the King's Guard, but secretly a rebel.
A classic conflicted figure. Stoic, loyal on the surface, but deeply involved in the rebellion. He needs Elspeth, draws her into this dangerous conspiracy to collect all 12 Providence cards.
Why do the rebels want them so badly, given the corruption?
They have this powerful belief, almost faith, that uniting all 12 cards will somehow revive the Shepherd King's original pure magic, break the curse, overthrow the tyranny. It's their only hope, they think.
So the cards represent this duality, power, and destruction.
Exactly. The sources really emphasize this symbolism. The magic's corrupting nature reflects how unchecked power, political or magical, degrades people and societies. We see it in the land, in King Rowan's rule.
And Raven himself, he's not just a leader. You mentioned his past.
Right. He's compelling because he's driven by this deep desire to free the kingdom, but it's intensely personal, too. His family has a tragic history with the cards loss, corruption tied directly to their power.
So it's not just ideology for him.
No, it adds this layer of emotional weight to his mission. Makes him relatable, empathetic, even with the dangerous things he's doing. His suffering makes his dedication understandable.
And the mission itself, collecting these cards, sounds incredibly dangerous. High stakes.
Couldn't be higher. They're risking everything. And Elspeth's involvement pulls her deeper into this world of secrets, espionage.
Does trust become an issue?
Huge issue. As they hunt for the cards, secrets unravel constantly. Not just about the cards or the king, but about each other. Trust is fragile, earned slowly, lost instantly.
I can imagine.
That constant tension, the suspicion, it builds and builds, leading to this major betrayal that completely shakes things up and sets the stage for the next book, leaves you hanging.
It makes you wonder, how do all these elements work together to keep you on the edge of your seat?
It's multi-layered, isn't it? You've got the external threat, the monarchy, the wardens. You've got Elspeth's terrifying internal struggle. And then layered on top is this pervasive distrust among the allies.
Right. Who can you actually believe?
Exactly. Any alliance feels like it could shatter. Any secret could be exposed. The emotional landscape is as volatile as the magic. Always questioning, always waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Okay, so we have the world, the magic, the quest. Let's bring it back to the characters who make it all work.
Yeah.
We've got Elspeth at the center, brave, conflicted on this journey of self-discovery.
Burdened but growing.
And the nightmare inside her, sardonic, manipulative, a character in its own right, its motives key to the plot.
Definitely. A constant, unsettling presence.
Then Raven Yu, stoic guard captain, rebel leader, torn between duty and justice, and their relationship. You mentioned slow burn romance.
Yes. It's tense, layered, deeply emotional. It unfolds amidst all the danger and secrets, adding another compelling layer.
But it's not just them, right? The supporting cast is important too.
Oh, absolutely. Gillig does a great job with them. Take Elm, Raven's cousin.
The charming one.
Yeah, seems like comic relief at first, witty, flirtatious, but he quickly shows surprising depth. Fiercely loyal, protective, actually quite strategic.
So he's more than just the funny guy.
Much more. He becomes key to the rebel efforts, often using that charm for intelligence gathering, and he's a vital part of Elspeth's small circle of trust. He adds lightness, yes, but also reinforces the stakes, shows the human connections amidst the danger.
And Elspeth's cousin, Ione.
Ione starts as a confidant, someone Elspeth trusts, but her role gets complicated as loyalties shift.
Complicated how?
Her story really explores themes of ambition, how it can twist good intentions, and ultimately betrayal. Her journey makes you really question who's trustworthy, shows how bonds fray under pressure.
And the main antagonist,
Rowan.
the tyrannical ruler, embodiment of the oppressive regime. His defining traits are obsession with power and this deep, almost irrational fear of magic.
Leads to the crackdowns. Exactly. Brutal, merciless crackdowns. He turns people into spies or victims. He's the central antagonistic force embodying the systemic injustice the rebels fight. A chilling villain driven by fear as much as power lust.
Looking at all of them, Elspeth hiding the nightmare, Raven his rebel ties, Ione her ambitions, Elm his strategic mind behind the charm. It seems like everyone is wearing a mask.
Literally and figuratively, yes. The sources really highlight this. The plot hinges on betrayals, revelations, peeling back those masks. It hammers home how fragile trust is in a world full of hidden motives.
It makes you constantly second-guess everyone.
It does, and it makes you think, what stands out to you about how these relationships shift? Gillig forces you to rethink your first impressions, see the complexities. Survival in Blunder often requires deception.
So secrets are currency almost.
In a way, yes. And revealing them can forge bonds or shatter everything. It's masterful character work woven into the themes of suspicion and loyalty.
Okay, so it's clear this isn't just plot and world. It's exploring big ideas.
Yeah.
Let's unpack some of those core things that make One Dark Window so resonant.
Absolutely. First up, definitely power and corruption. We keep coming back to it.
With the Providence Cards as the main symbol.
Exactly. That duality, power to protect, power to destroy. The magic's corruption mirrors how unchecked power, political or personal, degrades individuals and societies. King Rowan is the prime example. His tyranny stems from his obsession with power and fear of losing it.
The magic reflects the corruption in his rule.
Perfectly. It asks that question. Is power inherently corrupting, or is it the fear of losing it that breeds tyranny?
Then there's the theme you touched on with Elspeth, identity and self-acceptance.
Her struggle with the nightmare is central here. It's more than just fantasy. It mirrors real-world struggles with mental health, duality, learning to accept even the dark parts of ourselves.
That feels very contemporary.
It is. It resonates because it's universal. Finding strength not by purging inner demons, but by understanding, maybe even integrating them. It redefines what courage looks like.
And that ties into the broader theme of oppression and rebellion.
Directly. Blunder is suffocating under fear, control, magical prejudice. The rebels fighting back reflects timeless themes of resistance, fighting systemic injustice.
And you said magic is a tool for both sides.
Right. The monarchy fears and regulates magic, using that fear to control. The rebels seek to unleash a different magic, the Shepherd Kings, as a tool for liberation. It makes you ask, when do dangerous means become justified in the fight for freedom?
Building on that idea of justification and means, we have secrets and trust.
Pervasive. As we saw with the characters, the masks, the hidden motives, Elspeth's secret, Ione's betrayal. The plot turns on these moments.
Highlighting how fragile trust is.
Extremely. You're constantly questioning alliances, wondering about the price of sincerity in such a dangerous world. Who can you rely on when everyone has something to hide?
And finally, the theme underpinning everything. Legacy and myth.
Yes, the lore of the Shepherd King, the power of stories themselves, how they're remembered, twisted, even weaponized.
So the past isn't just backstory.
Not at all. It actively shapes the present. Ancient prophecies, forgotten histories, superstitions, they fuel the conflict, guide characters' choices. It shows how narratives, true or not, wield immense power, defining cultures, driving revolutions. How does the past shape Blunder's present? Profoundly.
Okay, so beyond the story and themes, let's talk about how it's told. Rachel Gillig's craft. Her prose gets a lot of praise. Lyrical, atmospheric, descriptive.
It really does. She paints with words.
How does she create that strong atmosphere? Are there specific techniques?
It's multifaceted. She uses highly sensory details, the feel of the mist, the scent of the woods, lots of poetic metaphors, haunting imagery that sticks with you. It's functional, reinforcing the dark themes.
And the tone stays consistent. Dark, gothic.
Very, because even beautiful descriptions often have this underlying melancholy or sense of foreboding. And the first-person narration from Elspeth is key.
Why is that so effective?
It gives you intimate access. You're inside her head, experiencing her conflicts, her fears, and those incredibly eerie, sometimes witty conversations with the nightmare. You feel every whisper, every decision.
That sounds incredibly immersive. And it's not just description, right? The pacing gets mentioned too.
Yes, she balances deep character work, really getting inside Elspeth, with exciting plot progression. It never feels slow, but it doesn't feel rushed either. Revelations and action hit at the right moments.
And the dialogue. Does it sound natural?
It really does. It feels like real conversation, but elevated just enough to fit the slightly archaic, fantastical setting without sounding stilted.
Yeah.
That's a tough balance.
Definitely. What about the world building? You said it wasn't info dumpy.
No, it's subtle, organic. You learn about the cards, the nightmares effects, the king's rules, the Shepherd King's history as Elspeth experiences or discovers them.
So you piece it together with her.
Exactly. It makes the magic system feel both natural and mysterious. It preserves the wonder and the danger. It trusts the reader to engage, which is really effective for fantasy fans looking for true immersion.
Now let's touch on the reception. One Dark Window made quite a splash.
It really did. Widespread acclaim from readers and critics pretty much right away.
What were the main points of praise?
The unique magic system consistently got high marks. The compelling characters, especially Elspeth, and that distinctive, haunting Gothic tone really set it apart. It quickly became seen as a standout debut in dark fantasy.
And it found a big audience online, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. It exploded on Book Talk and Bookstagram. That generated massive organic buzz, huge fan engagement, and really propelled it onto bestseller lists.
Were there comparisons to other authors?
Yes, reviewers often lauded her blend of folklore, romance, and suspense. Favorable comparisons were frequently made to Leigh Bardugo.
Known for Grishaverse, Six of Crows, intricate world.
Exactly. And Naomi Novik, with Uprooted and Scholomance dark fairy tales, nuanced characters.
That's huge praise. Being mentioned alongside them says a lot about the quality and appeal.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It suggests Gillig tapped into that same vein of compelling storytelling, atmospheric world building, and character-driven narrative that resonates deeply with fantasy readers. Offers similar depth, richness, but with her own unique voice.
And that success paved the way for the sequel.
Definitely. Huge anticipation built up quickly, leading to the publication of Two Twisted Crowns, which completed the duology much to the fans' delight. They were eager for the conclusion.
So, wrapping things up, One Dark Window really feels like a fresh, emotionally resonant take on dark fantasy.
I'd agree.
It delivers a compelling, nuanced female lead with Elspeth, a fascinating original magic system with the Providence Cards, and that richly imagined, haunting gothic world of Blunder. And Gillig's ability to weave romance, psychological tension, political intrigue together so seamlessly without losing focus, that's really notable. It's thrilling and emotionally deep.
It truly is. And I think beyond the plot and atmosphere, what makes it stand out is the empathy. How it treats inner darkness, mental struggle, moral ambiguity.
It doesn't shy away from complexity.
Not at all. It challenges those easy hero-villain labels in fantasy, offers a more complex human picture of courage and sacrifice. Characters are flawed, driven by fear and hope, like real people.
What does that say about contemporary fantasy, do you think?
I think it shows a growing appetite for stories that dig deeper into the psyche, embrace complexity over simple good versus evil, and find strength in internal battles, not just external ones.
Makes sense.
So yeah, in today's fantasy landscape, One Dark Window really shines. Thoughtful, atmospheric, emotionally layered. Rachel Gillig is definitely a voice to watch.
So we've walked through Blunder's mists, peered into Elspeth's mind and her struggle with the nightmare, looked at the dangerous power of the Providence Cards, and unpacked that simmering rebellion. We really hope this deep dive gives you a new appreciation for this fantastic story.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? If our own inner struggles, our hidden parts, can be sources of both power and peril, how do we choose which voice inside to listen to? And what does accepting our whole selves truly look like, especially in a world that often fears difference? Maybe consider picking up One Dark Window and experiencing its haunting beauty for yourself.
Join us next time for another deep dive into the stories that capture our imagination.